Hello and welcome everybody back to another video. I'm your SimCFI, which makes me your flight instructor for any simulator purposes. If you guys have questions on anything, please be sure to leave a comment down below. This will be a new and improved updated tutorial series on the CRJ 900 made by Aerosoft in Flight Simulator 2024. My goal with this tutorial series is to make a clear and concise tutorial on how to fly the CRJ if you're brand new to it, and also if you've flown it before. As you guys know, I do fly the CRJ 900 in real life, so I'll try to make this as realistic as possible for you guys. Don't be shy, tell me in the comments if you liked what you saw. I always like to hear feedback from you guys, so be sure to do that. Also, likes and subscriptions are very much appreciated. Lastly, be sure to check out the description as we have a ton of discount codes down below. Let's get into it. Okay, so we're going to start off in the aircraft here, and as I said, this is going to just be the beginning logistics of how to get this airplane ready. So we're going to be going through control mapping and the EFB. So let's start with the controls. We're going to press escape, settings, controls. Now I'm running rudder pedals, a yoke, and the Bravo throttle quadrant. My yoke is the Moza AY210 yoke, as you guys can see right here. Then I have the Orion Combat rudder pedals, although actually they're not. They're actually the Airbus ones. But anyways, I have the wing control rudder pedals. And lastly, the Bravo throttle quadrant. So let's go through what we're going to need mapped. Let's start with the throttle and work our way down. The basics of what you're going to need are obviously throttle left and right, spoiler, flaps, and toga button. That's kind of it. So what we're going to do, you're going to press the search, just type in throttle, and we move down here. I have throttle 1 axis and throttle 2 axis. The way to assign something is just click, for example, click the open space, move the axis you want it to be, and it'll set the open space. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that because I don't want that there. But that's how you would map that. So I have my left throttle and my right throttle. So both throttles are mapped. The second thing I would map right here is the hold throttle reverse. This is a button, so this on your Bravo throttle will be pulling your reverse handle up. That's the way I have it mapped. And if we go to the top, you're going to want the auto throttle toga button. You don't need the disconnect. I have this profile for other airplanes, but for the CRJ, you need the auto throttle toga button as well. This would be if you have a button on the side of the throttle, on the top of the face, you can set that there or anywhere you'd like. Next, you're going to need flaps. Let's maybe spell it right. I have it set to an axis on my Bravo throttle. Sometimes Microsoft does that where it gets rid of it. So I have it set to an axis, but you can set it to a button, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can set it to increase, continuous, decrease. So if you just want it as like a toggle, like more flap, more flap, more flap, less flap, less flap, you can set it to increase flap. Sorry, you can set it to extend flap and retract flap, and that should work. However, I have mine on an axis. We're going to type spoil, and spoiler axis should come up. This is what I have my spoiler set to. Again, if you don't have an axis to put on this, you can put your extend spoilers, retract spoilers. And that's basically it on the throttle quadrant. Moving on to the yoke. Okay, so for the yoke, you're going to need pitch and roll. So you can either go by categories like this: flight control services, primary flight control, and it'll just be right here. So ailerons axis is be your joy X, left and right. Elevator axis is your joy Y, up and down. Secondly, you're going to go to the control trimming surfaces. You're going to need elevator trim nose down and trim nose up. If you want, you can map aileron trim and rudder trim, but we only really use those in single engine, like an engine fail kind of scenario. So you shouldn't need it for simulator purposes. So now you have your pitch and roll and trim mapped. You're going to want the autopilot disconnect. So we'll just type in autopilot. And I'll just put it by assigned. So I have the toggle autopilot master. That's the one that works correctly for the CRJ, especially if you have the Boris sound mod. And you're also going to want the flight director pitch sync. We'll go through this in detail a bit later, but this is going to be on the hand you're going to fly the airplane with. So the side that you have the push to talk and the trim on that exact same side that you have all your if you're one hand flying, you're going to want to have this button on your on the side that you're flying the airplane with. And that's it for the yoke. Moving down to the rudder pedals. All I have here is my left brake axis for left brake, right brake axis for right brake, and rudder axis for my rudder. Now, keep in mind, for any of these axes, if they don't work, you can always go ahead. Let's say if it's reversed and you want to invert them, you can always get the axis, press the little settings button, and then press set inverted, and that will fix your problem for you. You might have to do this for the brakes or the throttles usually. All right, now that you have all that mapped, what we can do is we can go into our EFB, and this will just be your EFB setup. So we'll go over here, click the spot, the EFB will turn on. And at the top, we're gonna go all the way to the options section. These are my options. You can copy them if you'd like, or you can do your own. I like pounds, I like Celsius, and inches of mercury. I have my course synced, but my nav sources are independent. Dual Q flight director. Your IRS align, you can do instant, quick, or realistic. Okay, on the PFD/HDS throttle detent, I have it on hide as we don't have a throttle position indicator in the real airplane on the PFD. You only know what position it is either by the toga detent and or more importantly the ICAS display will say what detent you're in. Autopilot disconnect yoke sensitivity, I have set, I'm going to actually set that to low. I do like knob turn acceleration, so I have mine on. The next page, these are my settings here. So I'm flying without the VNAV function, as most of the airplanes I fly real world do not have VNAV. Some of them do, but most of them don't. And then on the MFD options, I want it to be spawned like this: speed, altitude, and range select. That's the default that most people like to fly with. You can add more stuff, but we'll talk about that, what that does later. My PFD colors are default to memory, pretty sure. And then you're going to want to come here and press controls, calibrate throttle. And what you're going to want to do to this is see how my throttles are moving. I've already done this, so I'm not going to do it, but you're going to put your throttle. Let me back up. First, you're going to make sure if you have a single axis or a dual axis throttle. Do you have two handles to your throttle or one handle to your throttle? So select that. Reverser axis. Mine doesn't have an axis for reverser. Mine's a button. So I have that unchecked. Now, if you have an axis, you can go ahead and click it. So I'm going to put my throttle in idle, and then I'm going to press set. I'm going to move my throttle physically to where I think my climb detent is, or if you have a detent, you can put it in the detent for climb. Press climb, the next detent for toga, and the last detent for max power. And you'd press set on both as you go. Once you're done that, you'd press validate and then OK. I'm going to cancel because I don't want to screw anything up. Now, if you have Navigraph and SimBrief, you're going to want to put in your SimBrief ID right in here. And secondly to that, you're going to want to update any Navigraph information you have. So you press check for nav data. It says the latest navigation database has been installed, so you don't have to press install. But if it comes with something, you can just press install right in the EFB and it'll update your nav data. You will require a Navigraph subscription to make this work. Next page, these are my settings for GSX and everything. I actually am going to turn the automatic door handling, close doors after boarding, and close doors after deboarding, and press save. Okay guys, with that we'll conclude part 1. Hopefully your EFB and control mappings are all finished. We'll see you guys in part 2, where we'll start the safety checks on the flight from LaGuardia at gate 51 over to Toronto. We'll see you guys there.